5 names, 5 legends, gone. No goodbye, no thank you, no grace period. Just erased. Late last night, while most America was sleeping, Team USA dropped a bomb so massive that it shook the entire WNBA universe to its foundation. And when the dust settled, basketball fans everywhere were left with one terrifying question. Did Team USA just betray its own heroes? Let me tell you exactly what happened, because this story goes deeper than any headline you've read. This isn't just roster news. This is a complete and total revolution. Coach Cheryl Reeve made the call, and she made it without hesitation, without remorse, without looking back. 5 players who carried gold medals, players who sacrificed everything for that red, white, and blue jersey, were told their services were no longer needed. Chelsea Gray, the floor general, the maestro, the point guard who controlled games like a chess master, moving pieces across the board. Cut. Brittney Griner, a global icon, a woman who survived the unimaginable and returned to dominate, a center whose presence alone changed how opponents played. Cut. Veterans who bled for this program, athletes who answered every call, warriors who never questioned their commitment. All of them. Cut. No press conference, no respectful farewell tour, just a phone call in the dead of night. And here's the part that's making everyone lose their minds. This wasn't about performance issues. This wasn't about injuries. This wasn't about attitude problems. This was about one name, one player, one decision that changed absolutely everything. Caitlin Clark. Now, before you react, before you start typing angry comments or celebrating the streets, let me explain exactly why this move is either the smartest thing Team USA has ever done or the biggest mistake in American basketball history. Because there's no middle ground here. Team USA didn't just add a player. They rebuilt their entire philosophy around her. Her shooting, her vision, her gravity, her ability to stretch defenses in ways this program has never seen. And the veterans, the legends, they suddenly didn't fit. That's the cold, brutal truth that nobody wants to say out loud. But I'm going to say it. Team USA looked at Chelsea Gray, a brilliant passer, a champion, a proven winner, and said, "You're too slow." They looked at Brittney Griner, a dominant force, a symbol of resilience, a matchup nightmare, and said, "The game has passed you by." They looked at Olympic gold medalists and said, "Your legacy doesn't protect you anymore." This is unprecedented. In the history of USA basketball, we have never seen a purge this savage, this calculated, this final. And the reaction? Absolute chaos. Social media exploded. Former players came out swinging. Analysts picked sides. Fans turned on each other. Some are calling this a betrayal of everything Team USA stands for. Others are calling it the smartest rebuild in international basketball history. But here's what nobody's talking about yet. The real reason behind these cuts goes so much deeper than what you've heard. There's a secret meeting that happened 3 weeks ago. A conversation between coaches and USA basketball executives that changed everything. And what was said in that room will shock you. Because this wasn't just about Caitlin Clark. This was about something Team USA has been afraid to admit for years. Something that could cost them everything. And in part 2, I'm going to reveal exactly what that something is. 3 weeks ago, a closed-door meeting. No cameras, no reporters, no leaks, just coaches, executives, and one terrifying PowerPoint presentation that changed the future of American basketball. The title of that presentation? The End of Dominance. That's right, Team USA, the most dominant force in international women's basketball history, finally admitted what they've been hiding from the public for years. The world has caught up. And not just caught up, the world is getting better, faster, hungrier. While Team USA was celebrating past glories, while they were handing roster spots to legends based on reputation, while they were running the same systems that worked a decade ago, France was evolving, Australia was adapting, Spain was scheming, Belgium was rising, and suddenly, those comfortable victories weren't so comfortable anymore. Remember the 2024 Olympics? Team USA won gold. The headlines celebrated. The parade happened. Everyone went home happy. But behind the scenes, panic. The margins were shrinking. The games were getting tighter. The fear in opponents' eyes? Gone. International teams weren't just competing. They were believing. And that belief is more dangerous than any individual player. So USA Basketball did something they've never done before. They commissioned a full analysis. A brutal, honest breakdown of where they stood compared to the rest of the world. The results were devastating. In transition offense, Team USA ranked 4th. In three-point shooting efficiency, 6th. In defensive adaptability, they didn't even crack the top 3. The report concluded with one haunting sentence. If current trends continue, Team USA will lose a major international competition within the next 4 years. For years, that's 2028, Los Angeles, the Olympics on American soil. Imagine that nightmare. Imagine Team USA losing gold at home while the entire world watches. That report landed on Cheryl Reeve's desk like a bomb, and she knew exactly what had to happen. Revolution, not evolution, not minor adjustments, not gentle transitions. Complete and total reconstruction. And that meant making choices that would destroy relationships, end careers, and turn legends into casualties. But here's where it gets even more intense. When the coaching staff started mapping out the future, they asked one question that changed everything. Who fits the modern game? Not who earned it, not who deserved it, not who paid their dues. Who fits? They analyzed every player in the pool. Shooting percentages, transition speed, defensive versatility, basketball IQ, court vision, spacing intelligence. And one name kept appearing at the top of every single category. Caitlin Clark. Her shooting? Elite. The kind of range that forces defenses to extend beyond their comfort zone. Her passing? Generational. The ability to see plays before they happen. To thread needles that shouldn't exist. Her basketball IQ? Off the charts. The understanding of spacing, timing, and rhythm that can't be taught. And here's the stat that sealed everything. In games where Caitlin Clark controlled the offense, her team scored an average of 14 more points than their opponents in transition. 14 points. In international basketball, where games are decided by single possessions, that number is absurd. So the coaching staff made their decision. They would build around Clark, not as an addition, not as a role player, not as a future prospect. As the engine, the entire system would flow through her. The spacing would be designed for her. The pace would match her vision. But building around someone new meant dismantling what came before. And that's when the phone calls started. Chelsea Gray received hers at 9:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Brittney Griner got hers 11 minutes later. One by one, legends were told that their era was over. And the reactions? Some were graceful, some were furious, some went completely silent. But one reaction from one cut player is about to create a firestorm that nobody saw coming. Because she's not going quietly. And what she said behind closed doors is about to leak. They chose clicks over championships. 7 words. That's all it took to ignite a civil war in women's basketball. Those words came from someone inside the Team USA program. Someone who was just cut. Someone who has Olympic gold hanging in their home. And those words were never supposed to leave that room. But they did. Within hours, screenshots started circulating. Private group chats lit up. Burner accounts began tweeting cryptic messages. The WNBA community was tearing itself apart. On one side, veterans and their supporters, furious that decades of sacrifice were being tossed aside for what they called a marketing decision. On the other side, a new generation, arguing that evolution is painful but necessary, that clinging to the past is how empires fall. And caught in the middle of this war, Caitlin Clark. She never asked for this. She never demanded anything. She never walked into USA Basketball headquarters and said, "Choose me over them." But it didn't matter. The narrative had already been written. And in that narrative, she was a villain who stole roster spots from legends. Social media became a battlefield. Hashtags emerged. Hashtag Justice for Chelsea started trending. Hashtag Protect the Legends followed. Former players, some retired for years, started posting thinly veiled criticism. One former Team USA guard, whose name I won't mention but you definitely know, posted a simple message. Loyalty used to mean something. Championships used to matter. Now it's all about who sells jerseys. The implication was crystal clear. And fans? They were losing their minds. Comment sections became war zones. Every WNBA post became a debate. Every highlight became an argument. Caitlin Clark isn't ready for international basketball. She's the future, get over it. Team USA just spit on their own legacy. This is exactly what needed to happen. Back and forth. Endless. Exhausting. Emotional. But here's what most people missed while they were fighting online. Something was happening behind the scenes that would change everything. The cut players weren't just upset. They were organizing. Private calls were being made. Connections were being activated. Media contacts were being reached. A coordinated response was coming. And that response had one goal: to make USA basketball reverse their decision. Think about that for a second. Players with Olympic medals, WNBA championships, and decades of experience were actively working to undo the roster decisions. This wasn't just disappointment. This was a power move. They wanted meetings. They wanted explanations. They wanted accountability. And if they didn't get it, they were prepared to go public. Fully public. Interviews. Tell-alls. The whole thing. The pressure on USA basketball was building by the hour. But here's where it gets really interesting. Cheryl Reeve knew this was coming. She anticipated the backlash. She prepared for the criticism. And she had a counter move ready. A move so bold, so unexpected, that it would silence every critic in one press conference. She was about to reveal something about the new Team USA system that nobody had seen coming. A strategic innovation that would prove, beyond any doubt, that these cuts weren't about popularity or jersey sales. They were about winning. Specifically, they were about one play, one formation, one offensive concept that could only work with Caitlin Clark at the controls. And when the basketball world saw what Reeve had designed, opinions started shifting. Because this wasn't just theory anymore. This was proof. But not everyone was convinced. And one legendary voice was about to enter this debate with a take so explosive, it would divide fans all over again. A Hall of Famer. A voice that carries weight. Someone whose opinion could tip the scales in either direction. And what she said about Caitlin Clark and about the players who were cut will leave you speechless. Diana Taurasi, the GOAT, the legend, the player whose opinion carries more weight than anyone else in women's basketball history. When she speaks, the entire sport listens. And last week, she spoke. Not in a prepared statement. Not through a publicist. Not in some carefully worded press release. She spoke live, unfiltered, raw, and what she said sent shockwaves through every corner of the WNBA universe. I've watched this game evolve for over 2 decades. I've seen players come and go. I've seen trends rise and fall. And I'm going to tell you something that might surprise people. The interviewer leaned in. The cameras focused. Everyone held their breath. This decision might be exactly what Team USA needed. Silence. Complete and utter silence. The same Diana Taurasi who once questioned whether Caitlin Clark could handle the WNBA. The same Diana Taurasi who talked about how rookies need to earn their respect. The same Diana Taurasi who represented the old guard of women's basketball. That Diana Taurasi was now defending the cuts. Look, I love Chelsea. I love BG. These are my sisters. We've been through wars together. But basketball doesn't care about friendship. International basketball definitely doesn't care about history. She paused. You could feel the weight of what was coming. I've been watching the international game closely. Spain is running concepts we haven't figured out yet. France has shooters who can pull from anywhere. Australia's ball movement is ridiculous. If we keep sending the same team with the same approach, we're going to lose. Simple as that. The interviewer pushed back. But Diana, doesn't experience matter? Doesn't proven success count for something? Taurasi didn't hesitate. Experience matters when it translates. Success counts when it's current. But the game 3 years ago isn't the game today. And the game today isn't the game in 2028. Then she said the words that broke the internet. Caitlin Clark sees the game differently. She processes information faster than almost anyone I've watched. And that deep three, that changes spacing in ways that open everything up. If I was building a team for the modern era, I'd build it around her too. The Hall of Famer had spoken. And just like that, the narrative shifted. Veterans who had been vocal about the cuts suddenly went quiet. Critics who had been screaming about disrespect started reconsidering. Fans who were demanding reversals began second-guessing themselves. Because of Diana Taurasi, the ultimate competitor, the fiercest protector of women's basketball, the player who never backs down from anyone, was endorsing this direction. Maybe Team USA knew exactly what they were doing, but not everyone agreed. Within hours of Taurasi's interview, another voice emerged. Someone equally respected. Someone with their own championship pedigree. Sue Bird, the legendary point guard. Diana's longtime teammate and friend. A woman who defined excellence at the position Chelsea Gray now plays. And Sue Bird had a very different perspective. I respect Diana's opinion. I always will. But I think we're missing something important here. Her tone was measured but firm. Basketball isn't just about talent or potential or what might happen. It's about chemistry. It's about trust. It's about knowing that when the pressure hits, when everything's on the line, you have people beside you who've been there before. She let that sink in before continuing. Caitlin Clark is incredible. Nobody's denying that. But have we seen her in a must-win international game? Have we seen her with the world watching, with gold medals on the line, with hostile crowds screaming in languages she doesn't understand? The question hung in the air. Experience isn't just a word. It's armor. And we just stripped that armor away. Two legends. Two completely opposite takes. Diana Taurasi saying the cuts were necessary. Sue Bird saying they were premature. The WNBA world was now more divided than ever. But while these icons debated in public, something far more important was happening in private. The first Team USA training camp under the new system was about to begin. And what happened on day one would either validate every decision or expose the biggest mistake in program history. Because Caitlin Clark was about to step on that court. And every I was watching, day one, Colorado Springs, the Olympic Training Center. 18 players walked through those doors knowing that only 12 would survive. The tension was suffocating. You could feel it in the hallways. You could see it in the glances. You could hear it in the silences between conversations. This wasn't a normal training camp. This was a trial, a judgment, a battle for the future of American basketball. And everyone knew who they were watching. Caitlin Clark arrived early. No entourage, no fanfare, just a gym bag and a look of pure focus. She knew what was at stake. She knew that every made shot would be analyzed. Every missed pass would be criticized. Every moment would be judged. The weight of an entire program shift was on her shoulders. And she hadn't asked for any of it. The first drill was simple. 5-on-5 scrimmage. First team to 21. Winners stay. Cheryl Reeve deliberately mixed the rosters. Veterans with newcomers. Established stars with rising talents. And she put Caitlin Clark on the same team as Breanna Stewart. The two players who represented different eras of dominance. The proven champion and the revolutionary newcomer. Side by side, every coach held their breath. The first possession was messy. Nerves were obvious. The ball moved awkwardly. The spacing was off. Clark brought the ball up. Stewart set a screen. The defense switched. And then something magical happened. Clark saw a passing lane that nobody else could see. A window so small it shouldn't have existed. She threaded the ball through 3 defenders, hitting Stewart in perfect rhythm for an easy finish. Stewart turned and nodded. Just a nod. But in that moment, something shifted. The second possession was smoother. The third was electric. By the fifth, they were in complete sync. Clark's vision, Stewart's finishing, the spacing that opened up because defenders had to respect Clark's range. It was beautiful basketball. But here's what the cameras didn't catch. On the sideline, Two players who hadn't made the new roster were watching. Chelsea Gray and another veteran who'd been cut. They had been invited to observe. A courtesy, really, and their faces told a story that words couldn't capture. Gray watched Clark run the offense. She watched the ball zip around the court. She watched plays develop that she used to orchestrate. And for the first time, you could see it in her eyes. Understanding. Not acceptance. Not peace. But understanding. This was different. This wasn't the same system with a new point guard. This was something else entirely. The pace was faster. The spacing was wider. The options were endless. Clark wasn't playing Chelsea Gray's position. She was redefining it. By lunch, the whispers had started. Did you see that behind-the-back pass in transition? She hit 4 threes. 4. And she wasn't even trying to score. Stewart looks happier than I've seen her in years. The spacing is insane. Everyone has room to operate. But not all the whispers were positive. Some players felt threatened. Some felt overlooked. Some felt like their roles were disappearing. Because when one player becomes the engine, everyone else becomes a part. And not everyone was ready to accept that. By day 2, tension was building again. A heated exchange during practice. Voices raised. Coaches stepping in. The details were kept quiet. But sources inside the camp said one veteran player confronted Caitlin Clark directly. About what? Nobody would confirm. But whatever was said in that conversation left Clark visibly shaken. For the first time since camp started, she looked uncomfortable. And that night, she made a phone call that would change everything. She called the one person who could give her guidance. The one player who had been through everything she was experiencing. A legend who had walked this exact path decades earlier. And what that legend told Caitlin Clark gave her the perspective she needed to handle what was coming next. Because the hardest part of camp hadn't even started yet. The phone rang 3 times before she answered. Lisa Leslie, 4-time Olympic gold medalist, 3-time WNBA MVP, the first woman to dunk in a WNBA game, a pioneer who changed women's basketball forever, and the player who understood pressure better than almost anyone alive. I was wondering when you'd call, Leslie said. Caitlin Clark sat alone in her hotel room. The Colorado Springs night was silent outside, but inside her head, everything was loud. I don't know if I can do this, Clark admitted. It was the first time she had said those words out loud. To anyone. Lisa Leslie didn't respond immediately. She let the silence breathe. She understood that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is let someone sit with their own fear. Then she spoke. Do you know what they said about me when I first joined Team USA? Clark listened. They said I was too young, too inexperienced. They said I hadn't earned it. They said I was taking spots from players who deserved to be there more than I did. The parallels were haunting. I heard whispers in the hallways. I felt eyes on me during every drill. I knew that half the team wanted me to fail, just so they could say they were right. Leslie paused. And you know what I did? Clark waited. I showed up anyway. Every single day. I worked harder than everyone else. I let my game speak louder than their doubts. And eventually, the whispers stopped, because winning has a way of silencing critics. Those words landed like thunder. Caitlin, you're not there to make friends. You're not there to be liked. You're there because you're the future of American basketball. And the future doesn't apologize for arriving. Clark felt something shift inside her chest. But they confronted me today, she said. One of the veterans. She said I was the reason her friends got cut. She said I didn't deserve to be the center of anything. Lisa Leslie's response was immediate. Good. Clark was confused. Good. Yes, good. Because that means they see you as a threat. That means they know you're not just some temporary addition. That means they understand that you're changing everything. Leslie's voice grew more intense. Let me tell you something about basketball at this level. The players who get confronted are the ones who matter. The players who get criticized are the ones who are changing the game. Nobody wastes energy on people who aren't threats. Clark felt tears forming, not from sadness, from relief. You weren't brought to Team USA to fit in. You were brought to Team USA to lead. And leadership means absorbing the hate. It means carrying the weight. It means being the target so everyone else can operate freely. Leslie's final words would stay with Clark forever. Tomorrow morning, you walk into that gym with your head high. You don't apologize for being there. You don't shrink to make others comfortable. You play your game. The game that got you here. The game that's going to win gold medals. Click. The call ended. But something had begun. The next morning, Caitlin Clark walked into the training facility differently. Same gym bag, same practice jersey, same sneakers, but different energy. Players noticed immediately. Coaches noticed. Everyone noticed. There was a confidence that wasn't there before. A quiet intensity that demanded attention without saying a word. The first drill was a shooting competition. Deep threes, game pressure situations. Clark stepped up first. Swish, then again. Swish, then again. Swish. 7 straight, from 30 feet, without hesitation. The gym fell silent. Brianna Stewart started clapping. Slowly at first, then louder. Aya Wilson joined in. Then Sabrina Ionescu. Then Nafisa Collier. The veterans who had questioned her, they didn't clap, but they didn't look away either. Because in that moment, something became undeniable. Caitlin Clark belonged. Not because of marketing. Not because of jersey sales. Not because of social media followers. Because of basketball. Pure, undeniable basketball. But the drama wasn't over. Not even close. Because later that afternoon, news broke that would shake the entire WNBA to its core. One of the cut players had decided to go public, and what she was about to reveal would expose secrets that Team USA never wanted the world to know. The interview dropped at 6 p.m. Eastern. No warning, no leaks, no advance notice. Just a veteran player, a microphone, and 37 minutes of explosive truth. The host was a respected sports journalist. Someone known for tough questions. Someone who didn't do puff pieces. And the guest? A player who had given everything to Team USA. A player who had sacrificed her body, her time, her personal life for that jersey. A player who was just told she was no longer needed. Her name doesn't matter for legal reasons. But trust me, you know exactly who this is. The interview started calmly. Respectful questions about her career. Softball stuff about her memories of past Olympics. But at the 11-minute mark, everything changed. I want to ask you directly, the journalist said. How did you find out you were cut from the Team USA pool? Silence. Then the player took a deep breath. I found out through a text message. The journalist paused. A text message? Yes. After everything I've done for this program, after the gold medals, after the sacrifices, after the injuries I played through, I received a text message thanking me for my service. Her voice cracked. Not a phone call from the coach. Not a meeting in person. Not even a formal letter. A text message. Like I was being removed from a group chat. The clip went viral within minutes. But that wasn't even the bombshell. At the 23-minute mark, the journalist asked about the new direction of Team USA. There's been a lot of discussion about rebuilding around younger players, about changing the system. How do you feel about that? The player's expression hardened. Look, I understand basketball evolves. I understand that new talent emerges. But let me tell you something that nobody is talking about. She leaned forward. This wasn't a basketball decision. This was a business decision. The room felt electric. I've seen the internal documents. I know what meetings happened. This decision was made months before any basketball evaluation took place. They knew they were cutting before anyone touched the court. The journalist pressed. Are you saying the evaluations were predetermined? I'm saying that certain players were never going to make this team, no matter how well they performed, no matter what they showed in camp. The decision was already made. She paused. And I'm saying that the decision was influenced by factors that have nothing to do with winning basketball games. The implications were staggering. Was she suggesting that marketing concerns drove roster decisions? Was she implying that USA basketball prioritized popularity over performance? The journalist asked the obvious follow-up. Can you be more specific about what factors you're referring to? The player hesitated. You could see her calculating the consequences of her next words. Let me just say this. When a player who hasn't won anything at the international level becomes the centerpiece of your program over players who have multiple gold medals, you have to ask yourself what's really being prioritized. She didn't say Caitlin Clark's name. She didn't have to. Everyone watching knew exactly who she meant. The interview ended with a plea. I'm not asking to be on the team. That ship has sailed. But I'm asking for transparency. I'm asking for honesty. I'm asking for the basketball world to understand what's really happening behind closed doors. Within hours, the interview had 15 million views. USA Basketball released a statement calling the allegations completely unfounded. They insisted that all roster decisions were based on current basketball evaluation and future competitive needs. But the damage was done. Questions were being asked everywhere. Talk shows dedicated entire segments to the controversy. Former players started taking sides publicly. And at the center of the storm once again was Caitlin Clark. She hadn't done anything wrong. She hadn't asked for special treatment. She hadn't demanded anyone's roster spot. But now she was being painted as a beneficiary of a rigged system. The pressure was becoming unbearable. And then something happened that nobody, absolutely nobody, could have predicted. Caitlin Clark requested a meeting with Coach Reeve, a private meeting, just the two of them. What was said in that room would determine the future of Team USA and the future of Caitlin Clark's international career. The door closed. Just two people in the room. Coach Reeve behind her desk. Caitlin Clark in the chair across from her. No cameras. No assistants. No witnesses. What happened next would remain private for weeks. But sources close to both parties eventually pieced together the conversation. And it was nothing like anyone expected. Clark spoke first. I need to know the truth. Reeve didn't flinch. She had been expecting this moment since the controversy exploded. What truth are you looking for? Clark's voice was steady but heavy. Did you choose me because of basketball? Or did you choose me because of everything else? The ratings, the attention, the jerseys, the clicks. She paused. Because if this is about marketing, I don't want any part of it. I didn't come here to be a brand. I came here to win. Reeve studied the young player in front of her. This was the moment that would define their relationship. This was the moment that would determine whether trust could exist between them. She reached into her desk drawer and pulled out a thick folder. Do you know what this is? Clark shook her head. This is every statistical analysis we ran on potential roster candidates. Every game film breakdown. Every international scouting report. Every projection model. She slid the folder across the desk. Open it. Clark opened the folder. Pages and pages of data. Charts. Graphs. Heat maps. Shot distributions. Assist patterns. Defensive metrics. And on nearly every page, one name appeared in the top tier. Caitlin Clark. I've been coaching basketball for over 2 decades, Reeve said. I've won championships. I've developed superstars. I've made decisions that ended careers and launched others. Her voice was firm. And I'm telling you right now, this decision had nothing to do with marketing, nothing to do with ratings, nothing to do with jersey sales. She pointed at the folder. This decision was about one thing and one thing only: winning the 2028 Olympics on American soil. Clark felt her chest tighten. The international game has changed, Reeve continued. Teams are faster, smarter, better coached. The window where we could win on reputation alone is closed. She leaned forward. I needed a player who could shoot from 30 feet and make defenses pay. I needed a player who could see passes before they existed. I needed a player whose basketball IQ could keep up with the fastest possessions in the world. Reeve's eyes locked onto Clark's. I needed you, not your brand, not your followers. You. The room fell silent. Clark looked down at the folder. The evidence was overwhelming. Page after page of basketball analysis that pointed to one conclusion. She belonged here. But the veterans, Clark said quietly, the players who got cut, they gave everything to this program. Reeve nodded slowly. Yes, They did, and I will carry the weight of those decisions for the rest of my career. Every phone call I made broke my heart. Her voice softened. But my job isn't to reward the past. My job is to prepare for the future. And the future requires difficult choices. She stood up and walked to the window. Chelsea Gray is one of the best point guards I've ever coached. Brittney Griner is a generational talent. Every player we cut deserves respect and gratitude. She turned back to face Clark. But deserving respect doesn't mean deserving a roster spot. Not when the world is getting better every single day. Clark absorbed every word. "So what do you want from me?" she asked. Reeve walked back to her desk. She pulled out one more document. A single sheet of paper with a simple diagram on it. An offensive system. "I want you to study this. I want you to master it. I want you to make it your own." Clark looked at the diagram. It was unlike anything she had seen before. Spacing concepts, movement patterns, decision trees, all flowing through one position. Her position. "This is what we're building," Reeve said. "This is why everything happened. This is the future of Team USA basketball." Clark stared at the paper for a long moment. Then she looked up. "When do we start?" Reeve smiled for the first time. "We already have." The meeting lasted another hour. Details were discussed. Expectations were set. Trust was established. When Clark walked out of that room, something had fundamentally changed. She wasn't just a player on a roster anymore. She was a foundation of a revolution. But outside those walls, the controversy was still raging. And a new development was about to throw everything into chaos once again. Because the cut player who gave that explosive interview, she had just filed an official complaint with USA Basketball. And she was demanding a formal investigation. The complaint landed on USA Basketball's desk at 9:14 a.m. on a Thursday morning. 14 pages. Single-spaced. Detailed with precision. The allegations were explosive. Improper roster selection procedures. Predetermined outcomes. Failure to follow established evaluation protocols. And the most damaging claim of all, discrimination based on factors unrelated to athletic performance. USA Basketball had 72 hours to respond. The organization immediately went into crisis mode. Lawyers were called. Emergency board meetings were scheduled. Public relations teams drafted statements that were revised 17 times before lunch. This wasn't just a complaint. This was an existential threat. If the allegations were substantiated, even partially, the consequences would be catastrophic. Roster decisions could be overturned. Leadership could be removed. Sponsors could flee. The entire 2028 Olympic preparation could be thrown into chaos. And at the center of everything, once again, was the question that wouldn't go away. Was Caitlin Clark's selection legitimate? The media frenzy was immediate and relentless. Every sports network led with the story. Every talk show debated the implications. Every social media platform exploded with opinions. Former players who had stayed silent suddenly found their voices. "I've been saying this for months," one retired star posted. Something felt wrong about this whole process. "Finally, someone is demanding accountability," another wrote. "This program has lost its way." But the support wasn't universal. Current players who were in the training camp, players who had watched Clark before with their own eyes, started pushing back. Brianna Stewart posted a simple message. "I've been at every practice. I've seen every drill. The right players are here." Aya Wilson was more direct. "Stop trying to tear down someone who hasn't done anything wrong. Focus on winning." Sabrina Ionescu shared a photo from practice with Clark, captioned, "My teammate, my point guard. Let's get to work." The basketball world was choosing sides, and the pressure on USA Basketball was mounting by the hour. Behind closed doors, an emergency investigation was launched. Every document was reviewed. Every meeting was examined. Every communication was analyzed. The organization needed to prove that the selection process was fair, transparent, and based entirely on basketball merit. And they needed to prove it fast. 3 days later, USA Basketball released their response. A 47-page document, exhaustively detailed, legally bulletproof. It included every statistical analysis that had been conducted, every game film that had been reviewed, every evaluation form that had been completed, and it concluded with an unequivocal statement. All roster decisions were made based on current athletic performance, projected future contribution, and strategic team-building principles. No external factors influence the selection process. The allegations are without merit and are categorically denied. The complaining player's legal team called the response inadequate and evasive, but the broader public reaction was different. The data was overwhelming. The evidence was clear. The basketball justification was undeniable. Slowly, the narrative began to shift. Critics who had demanded blood started backing down. Media outlets that had sensationalized the controversy began running more balanced stories. Fans who had attacked Clark online started deleting their posts. Not everyone was convinced. Some people never would be. But the tide was turning. And then something happened that silenced almost every remaining doubt. Team USA scheduled an exhibition game against France, the same French team that pushed America to the brink in recent international competitions. The same French team that represented everything USA basketball feared about the evolving global game. This wasn't just an exhibition. This was a statement game. A chance to prove that the new roster, the new system, and the new direction were the right choices. A chance to show the world what Caitlin Clark could do on the international stage. The date was set. The arena was booked. The broadcast deals were signed. 15,000 fans would be watching in person. Millions more around the world. And every single one of them would be asking the same question. Could Caitlin Clark handle this moment? Could she justify every controversial decision? Could she prove that she belonged? The answer was about to arrive, and it would change women's basketball forever. Game night. The arena was electric. 15,000 fans packed into every seat. American flags waving. Chants echoing off the rafters. But this wasn't a celebration. Not yet. This was a trial. Every eye in that building, and millions more watching around the world, was focused on one question. Was Team USA right? The French team walked onto court with swagger. No fear. No hesitation. They had been waiting for this moment. For years, they had been told they weren't good enough. For years, they had been dismissed as a stepping stone. For years, they had watched America celebrate while they went home empty-handed. Not anymore. France had shooters who could match anyone. Ball handlers who could break down defenses. A system designed specifically to exploit American weaknesses. And they knew that Team USA was vulnerable. New roster, new system, new chemistry that hadn't been tested under real pressure. This was their chance. The opening tip went to France. They pushed immediately. Fast break, quick passes, a wide-open three from a wing. Swish. France 3, USA 0. The American crowd went quiet. Team USA brought the ball up. The new offense was about to be unveiled on the biggest stage. And at the controls was Caitlin Clark. She crossed half court, surveyed the defense, called out the play. The spacing was perfect. 5 players spread across the court. Driving lanes everywhere. Shooters positioned at every angle. Clark drove right. Drew 2 defenders. Kicked to the corner. Sabrina Ionescu, wide open. Swish. Tied at 3. The crowd exhaled. But France responded immediately. Another fast break. Another quick 3. France 6, USA 3. This was going to be a war. For the first 12 minutes, neither team could pull away. Every basket was answered. Every run was matched. France was fast, disciplined, fearless. Team USA was finding its rhythm, but it wasn't smooth yet. Passes were slightly off. Timing was inconsistent. The new system was still being learned. And then, with 4 minutes left in the first half, everything changed. France went on a run. A brutal, devastating 11-2 run that silenced the entire arena. The French point guard was carving up the American defense. Their shooters couldn't miss. Their energy was overwhelming. France 34, USA 23. 11 points down. At home, against a team that represented everything USA basketball feared. The critics were already typing their takes. Told you so. This is what happens when you cut experience. Caitlin Clark can't handle the moment. Coach Reeve called timeout. The American players huddled on the sideline. Faces were tense. Doubt was creeping in. But one player wasn't shaken. Caitlin Clark stood in the center of that huddle with fire in her eyes. "Give me the ball," she said. Every possession. "Give me the ball." Reeve looked at her young point guard. This was the moment. This was why everything had happened. She nodded. "Run it through Clark. Everyone else space and move." The timeout ended. Team USA took the court. And what happened next would become legendary. Clark brought the ball up. France's defense collapsed on her. 2 defenders. Sometimes 3. She didn't panic. First possession. A step-back 3 from 28 feet over 2 defenders. Swish. France 34, USA 26. Second possession. A drive into the paint, drawing 4 defenders. A no-look pass to Aya Wilson for an easy layup. France 34, USA 28. Third possession. Another 3. Deeper this time. 31 feet. Swish. France 34, USA 31. The crowd was on its feet. The arena was shaking. Something magical was happening. France called timeout. They were rattled, but Clark wasn't done. Over the final 3 minutes of the first half, she scored or assisted on every single American basket. 12 points, 4 assists, 0 turnovers. By halftime, the score was tied. USA 41, France 41. The locker room was electric. Players were hugging. Coaches were animated. The energy had completely transformed. Breanna Stewart walked up to Clark and grabbed her shoulders. "That's why you're here," she said. "That's exactly why you're here." The second half was a masterpiece. Team USA's new system fully clicked. The spacing created open shots everywhere. The pace exhausted France's defenders. The ball movement was beautiful. And at the center of everything was Caitlin Clark. She finished the game with 29 points, 14 assists, and 0 turnovers. The final score, USA 94, France 71. A 23-point victory against a team that was supposed to expose America's weaknesses. When the final buzzer sounded, Clark stood at center court. The arena was chanting her name. Her teammates surrounded her, but she didn't celebrate wildly. She didn't pound her chest or scream at the cameras. She just smiled, because she knew this wasn't just a game. This was validation. Every cut, every controversy, every doubt, every criticism, it all led to this moment. Team USA had found its future, and that future was just beginning. In the press conference afterward, Coach Reeve was asked about the roster decisions. She smiled. "I think the basketball spoke for itself tonight." And somewhere, watching from home, the veterans who had been cut saw what everyone else saw. A new era had arrived. It was painful. It was controversial. It was heartbreaking for some, but it was undeniably right. Caitlin Clark didn't just prove she belonged on Team USA. She proved she was born to lead it. The 2028 Olympics were 3 years away. And for the first time in a long time, America wasn't just confident. America was dangerous again. So now I'm asking you, was Team USA right? Did they make the hardest but smartest decision in program history? Or did they cross a line that should never be crossed? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this story hit different, smash that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. Because the WNBA drama never stops. Until next time.